Hey guys, good afternoon. It's time for some more development and we're looking at graphs. Now, to a degree, we do have them working, but only in their very basic form. So, what we're going to have to do is we're going to have to extend them a bit. And to do that, we're going to take a look at the designer first. Right, so what I've done is I've split into the graph, and then this is going to be a scroll box where you can select the different items. Okay, now these are only going to be available once they are in, or once you've actually built one. So if you've never made copper ore should never appear in here, right? Because the graph would be just 0 anyway, right? So that is the plan. We have a basic idea for this, but we have not implemented it yet. So also, what we've got here is these things are enabling series and configuring series, but also in this case what we've got to do here is we're going to build them dynamically. So if they have been processed and have gone into our component, right, and basically added here, then we're going to send a message over to say enable those series. Now, having looked at it, that might not be a good idea, but we can have a look at it anyway, right? So what we need to do in this instance is we need to call the build selection. Okay, and the build selection can go before here. Okay, now we are going to have to pass between that our counter component and our widget, right, and keep them kind of in sync. But for the moment we're going to show everything just to give an idea that it actually works. Okay, so let's take a first look. And there's something weird going on with that as well, but I think it's because it's the save game thing going on. And we haven't spun this around. So, right, what about, come on. This plane is being a little nuisance. Okay, so that's going to start giving us some barrels or bauxite, and now what we can do is we can hit the G And you'll notice that down the left hand side we've now got our things. We've got our graph. Okay. Now this is weird. But I kinda know why it is. But I'll explain that in a second. But the point was that we get our different things here, and we can see whether or not we need to build these. Okay, so let's first of all make that happen, shall we? So if we go to build selection, right, now what we're going to have to do here is our old favorite. So we're going to promote this to a variable as well. Okay. And what we shall also do, so this is going to be FE, well, it's just basically going to be controller. Okay. What we'll do is we'll turn this into a variable as well. Okay. And now what we can do is we can actually talk to this directly rather than just to the controller. So in our build selection, right, we can get our comp stat counter, right, and then we can get our production count, product count. Right, now this is keeping account of every single product made, right? And basically what we're going to do here is if it exists in here, then we're going to show this. If it doesn't exist in here, we're not going to show it. Okay? So we're going to need a bit of space. Okay? And what we're going to do is we're going to have our usual boolean, and say exists and we shall actually create a new function. And we can say it has been produced. Okay, and this is going to have an output, and it's going to be called it's going to be called been produced. Okay, and that's going to be a boolean, and then we're going to have an input on it, and it's going to be product, and that is going to be an E item. Okay, and if we go back to our build selection, what we can actually do here is cut this, right, and paste it in here. And we might need a local variable here. So what we can do is a for each with break. Okay. That's going to go in there. Completed is going to go in there. Then we're going to have a local variable. And we'll call it temp produced. And we're going to set it to false when we come in. Okay. So we are setting it to false when we come in, and we're going to do a break on that. And then product is going to equal to our product coming in. Then we're going to branch it. Okay. So we can work on this. We can drag these over here. Then our temp produced goes in here. Then we can set our temp produced to true. Then this can go to break. Okay. And we can drag this up. We can drag it here. There we go. So it's going to pass us back being produced, right? So in our building selection, we don't, because we're doing it in a function before or there, right? What we're going to do is we're going to drag this out, and we are going to say has been produced. Okay. The item is going to go in here. We're going to drag that in there. And if it has been produced, we're going to branch. Well, we're going to branch, and if it has been produced, then basically we create the widget. And if it hasn't, then we don't. Okay? So in effect, when we run this now, okay, And I've done it again, haven't I? I've not spun this around. Right. So there we go. And now we only have bauxite because that's the only thing that's been produced. Okay. Now the interesting thing here is I think 3, 4. I think this is taking a cumulative number here and doing this, right? I'll show you what I mean by that in a minute, right? We'll sort that out in a minute. But we need to go down to our UI and in game, then stats, and this is going to be our stat selector. Okay, so this is our object, our picture, and this is our text block. Okay, and we're basically going to change the font, obviously. And we're going to have some padding to the left. So let's say 20. And that should do us. And that'll bring everything more in line with what we've got. Okay. And what I was talking about earlier on, as far as we've got this number called highest quantity in selected, okay, because we need to keep track of the highest value that is ever recorded, right, because that might be needed as the top value in the range on the Y, okay. So we need to keep a track. See, this is product count, right? And it shouldn't be product count. Okay? So this is actually in the wrong place. What this should be this can come out of here. Right? And it should actually go in here, because we're pulling it from the running total. It's the running total that we're interested in, not a cumulative amount, right? Before there we were taking it from the cumulative amount, which was obviously a mistake, and that's why I found it pretty easily, right? Because I knew what the error was. Right? So every time something gets added to the running total, we check if it's higher, or if that current running total is higher than the highest running total. Okay? And if it is, then we set it to a new highest running total, basically. Is what we do, right? Hope that makes sense, guys. If you want to, let me know if you need a better explanation of that. So now this goes in here. And we can drag all of this back we don't really need this. So we'll take that out for now and we'll join it back up just shortly. So this is going to go straight into here. Then we can basically join it to here. And that should be us. And this also goes into here. Okay, so now that is all set up properly and our graph should be right. That looks off kilter, doesn't it? Don't know if that's straight or not. No, that's definitely not straight. Yeah, that's straight. It's this, I think it's this reroute node that's making it look a bit weird. Right, just checking on this. We'll move this up to here. That's fine. Okay. So we can save that. And now we shouldn't see the wacky scale, right? And what we're going to do is we're going to test this further this time. Okay. And damn it. Okay, for some reason I can't spin this around. I'm stuck in the wrong. Right, okay. So what we'll do is we'll do that and then cancel it. And that's okay. Well, I've managed to break it. Good old me. Well, if somebody should be able to break the game, it should be me, I suppose. Right. So now we can draw on this. We can hit a few L's. Okay. We can hit our graph. You'll notice it's only box out. And then we only get the 3.5. Right? And that's exactly what we want. And this is working exactly how we want it at the moment. So we can do that, right? And then what we can do is we can actually bring in other things. Okay? So we can draw that. We can draw that. We can make sure that's set to iron. Right, we can set this to widgets. Then we can do this, draw that, join it up. Okay. and we've got the iron sheets here, and that's going to make some widgets. And so what happens now is if we hit G, there we go. Notice we haven't made any widgets yet, right? But that's widgets now made there. So what we could do is we need to sort this out so that everything gets drawn in the right place at the right time, right? But there we go. We've got our 4 widgets, or 4 things, right? And now I hope that if we get, right, if I hit L, right, I've hit a lot of L's, which is basically going to give us more workers in all of our plants, which means that everything should go faster. You already noticed that this has went up, and we're now up to a 5. Okay. But now the next part of this is we want to click on these to switch them on and off, right? So when we click them off, it's going to basically remove them from this graph. Okay. And at this point, I'd love to know how we actually do. I think we've got to set a style for a particular color and a particular thing. Right, we've stopped making widgets because basically widgets is full. Okay, I think that's what's went on there. But what we could do is we could build a storage thing here. Okay. And then if we do that, okay, our widgets will start coming out. Everything else has kind of been slowed down a bit, but if we now do this, we need to reset. Right, so let's have a look. Okay. And that is looking pretty good. Now, what we need to do is work out what the minimum is, okay? So basically what we're going to have to do here is work out where the minimum is, and then like show the last 5 minutes or something, and then we need to calculate it out, okay? So from that point of view, let's work on the next piece of the puzzle. But I am super happy with this at the moment. Okay, this is awesome. But I need to work out what the different things are, what bauxite is, what the iron ore is, so that I can do something with the colour, okay? So it looks to me like bauxite is red, iron ore is green, iron sheet is yellow, and widgets are white. Okay? That seems to be it. Red, green, yellow, white. But there is a way to find out which is which, or at least I'm hoping there is, because we're kind of stuffed if we're not. Right, so we have to go to designer, and I'm pretty sure and you see for the minimum maximum we've got, well, we actually set that, or do we? I don't think we do, but we need to work that one out. And there's this chart style. Well, this is the overall chart style, okay? And I mean, we could have the font color as the usual blue. And I think we need to make these a series style. Right? So what we're going to do is we're going to check to see what this looks like. Yeah, so it's right, so it's what? Red, green, yellow, white. So I'm expecting this to be red, green, yellow, white. Yep, green. This is actually blue. Yellow. And this is a kind of blue as well. Okay. Right, so this is like so I'm guessing this is like the X. This is like the points on the points, which little marker it has. Okay, so what we actually need to do here is create a series style, I'm guessing. So that being the case, I'm guessing it's going to be in here somewhere. Or not. Right, that's build selection, so it's not there, right? So the question is, where do we set the series style? Right? So we've got okay. We'll say that, right? And our series ID is going to be this. Now, the interesting, right, so if I do this, okay? If I do this, what I expect to happen is for every series to be read, okay? Because it says if you manually set this, then that becomes, it overrides any automatic setting, okay? So going by that, what it said in the documentation, then this must actually set it, okay? So I am expecting a series of red lines. Wait a minute. We shouldn't set it to red, okay? Because we know that the default one is red. So what we'll do is we'll set it to that color. Okay? So we'll test it with one first again, and then we'll test it with the other one. Okay? And I forgot to spin it around again. Right, so we're doing this. Okay. And we get the blue. Right? So this is good. This is good because we can now put the colors into a data table. Right? So we can now do this. And first of all, spin these round. Okay. And we can build these. For this, we'll select that, close that. For this, we'll select widgets, close that. And then what we'll do is we'll build our other thing here. We shall join these back on. So what I'm expecting here is a bunch of blue lines. But if it is a bunch of blue lines, I'm quite happy with that. In fact, I'm ecstatic, because that means that I can give each of the different things a different color in the database, and when we actually do the product and set it on the graph, we can get the color from the data table that matches to the color that we set it, right? And what it also means, I'll show you in a second. If we press G now, yep, all blue, perfect. That's exactly what I wanted, okay? So what I can do now is I can actually set these to a color, right? Or I can put a border on these with a color, or in this case, I can put a border. You know, if I make these all opaque, all the pictures, and then give them transparency, then I can put a border on them in the background with the color that they are on the graph. Okay? So that'll be pretty cool. Okay? So, without further ado, and getting sidetracked by some cool stuff, let's do it. So we're looking at DT items, okay? So we can browse to there, okay? And now what we can do is we can actually open struct, and we can add a new variable in our struct, and it's going to be called graph color. Okay, graph color, and that is going to be a linear color. Okay, so we save that, then we can go back into our here. So we can say bauxite, you can be dark blue. Okay, we'll go for the extended color wheel. Okay, that. The iron ore, let's say, is a kind of dirty bluey whitey colory thing. Then if we go for iron sheet, we can make that, let's say, purple, right? And our widget, these are the only ones that we're testing at the moment, so these are the ones we'll do. The widget can be, let's say, green. and that didn't change that really. So we'll go for a dark kind of green. So we can save that. And this is the magic of data tables, by the way, if you're watching Mr. Spock. Now that I've just done that, added it to a struct, added the values in the data table, I can basically now just go back to our, hey Blacklight, Toil Fredo. How are you doing today? Right, so if we go back to our stats, right, we can actually we're not getting the that's a bit of a bummer. Yeah, so you're about to see the power of the data table. Right, so we want to data table row, right? So we're going to get a data table row, and we're going to pull it for here. It's going to go in here. And I'm not 100% sure about this, to be honest. Yeah, it's DT items. That's fine. So we grab DT items, right? We can drag this out a bit. Whoop. Whoa, that was a bit squeaky. Right. We can pop that in there. We are going to have to do one little more thing, which is we're going to have to move this out a bit. Then we're going to do our out row. We're going to break the struct. We're going to zip it down a bit. And now we can get our graph color, and we can plug it straight in there. And the job's a good one. And now we should get the colors that we selected. Now there are other ways we can do this, but this gives us a very easy way to do it, right? So now when we do this, we should have the correct colors. And with this type of configuration, it's easy for me to make the colors that we want and set it all up in a way that kind of makes sense to me. And hopefully, because it makes sense to me, then I try to make it sense to a gamer, so it will make sense to a gamer. Okay. So we'll spin that around and we'll save that at that point. We'll set that. We'll set that. Right. Let's do it. Conveyors. Let's go. Now remember, the original colours were red, yellow, no, it's red, green, yellow, white, okay? And then we'd set it to like all blue. And now we are using our custom colours that are pulled from the data table to actually decide what colours we want those to be. And if we just finish this off, just so it's going to give us nice results, we can go to here and then to here. Then we can hit L a few times to up the worker count. Okay, and now we can hit G. And as you can see, it did absolute jack. Well, that's interesting. So I'm guessing we didn't get a rollback, okay? I'm guessing from here we did not get a rollback, which could be correct, although it shouldn't be correct. Okay, so let's just check it anyway. So we hit G, gets to here, right? The row name, we don't know what it is really yet. We can step over, it does get to there. We do have a linear color. What that linear color is, I don't know. It's 0.05 and 0.4, so it's blue, which is right because that's bauxite, okay? Then it's going to come in again, right? Because this is the one for the next product. And this is blue and green, so that's the purple-ish color. Okay, so this should actually work. Because that is coming back with the right colors. And there we have the different colors. But for some reason it's not drawing them anymore. Well, that's a bit weird. Right, so there must be something weird going on. I must have missed a loop or something that isn't. Draw lines. Huh. I'm just wondering if this is something to do with a save or something. Although I don't think so. See, because it's getting data, because this is at 300, right? So it's at 90, and it's at 320. So it definitely has data. It's just not kind of doing it right. Right, okay, whatever. Right, so if I break that and put it back to blue, I wonder if that'll work. Right, let's do that. And we'll drag that down there. We'll put this back in here. So that's the code. Basically, that's the code the way it was working, okay? That was exactly what I had before. And these are the only two things that I added to the color, right? I'm just wondering, make linear color, right? No, that should be right. Well, that's weird. Right, going to go and grab a cigarette, guys, and she'll be back in 2 minutes. Hit the subscribe button, check out the description for Discord and Patreon and other stuff, and I shall be right back. Okay, that was a quick break, and that's because we don't have any cigarettes. So that's a bit of a bummer. Right, so we're going to select this, we're going to go color, we're going to go OK that, compile this, press play, continue, and I think we're going to get nothing again, right? At least I hope we're going to get nothing again, because that would mean that it's something to do with the save game that's interfering with stuff. Yeah, yikes indeed. Right, so if we hit G, our color is back. Okay. Oh, I know what it is. I know what it is. You cannot fool me, Unreal Engine. Oh no, siree. Right, what we're going to do is we're going to break the linear color. Right, it's being, well, actually no, we won't. We're going to do this right. What we'll do is we're going to have DT items, and notice these are transparent. Right. Ha. You thought you had me fooled for a minute, but you didn't. So my code was absolutely perfect. It was just I've got no faith in myself, or well, we'll make that kind of a orangey how's, yeah, that colour. Right, so that's blue, that is kind of light blue, the widget is green, the iron sheets are orange. Okay, save. Now we go back to here, and this time you're going to work, aren't you? So we come to here, we save that, run, let's go. Yeah, I thought my wife would take the hint and maybe go to the shop for cigarettes for me, but it appears that she's just not taking the hint at all. Right, so that's that. Right, we'll do that. Then we'll hit our G. Okay, there we go. There's our different colours. How's about that? There's our green, there's our orange, there's our blue, and there's our white. Well, that's actually kind of light blue. Green and orange. Okay. Yeah, it's looking okay so far. We're not enamored. We're not totally enamored yet, right? But it's a decent start. So the next thing is we want to make these the same colors as this, right? So this basically relates to the color on our graph. So the simple thing here is to do that. Okay, now we actually have it pretty much all set up already, right? Because we're passing in the product. Okay? And because we're passing in the product, we already know, well, actually, let's have a look here. When we build that, we're getting the DT items. So we're already getting this, right? So all we need to do is go into our selection, right? And we add a variable and we call it graph color, let's say, right? And it's going to be a linear color, okay? And then in our product name, we're going to set color and opacity. Yeah, but we're going to set it, thank you very much, we're not just going to let it. So we're going to say color, set color and opacity. Okay. And then we plug that in there. Okay. We then plug it in there. Yeah, okay. It's fine, don't panic, guys. This is just make slate color, and then we just plug that in there, and that's it, right? Not to panic about. Okay. So now, if we go into our stats, and we refresh this, okay. Right, we need to make this instance editable and expose on spawn. Designer, sorry, wrong thing, in here, refresh nodes, and that goes in there. And how you done? There we go. Beautiful. Save that. Press play. Continue. And our graph should now match, well, the colors on the left should now match our graph. Okay, so we're gradually making nice progress here towards the final goal. We have got to do a bit of work to the time because the time isn't right at all, but we can start on that as well. It's given us the time values, which is what we want, but we want to manipulate them, right? So, for example, we may not want the values from 0. We just want the last 60 seconds, right? Or something like that, right? So we can build up our number of workers, and hopefully this will start piling stuff out a bit better. Then we can hit our G, and look at that, we've got the 2 with the appropriate colors. Okay. Right, so what we'll do is we'll press G again, and we've still only got the 2, but we should start getting some stuff out of here soon. and that's because I didn't set it, I believe. Yep, there we go, stuff starts going. Okay. Right, so now if we press it, we've got our 4, and there's the colours that match. Okay. So that's now looking even better. So now what we need to do is be able to switch these on and off. Okay. Okie dokie. So, how do we go about that then? So we go into our stats selector, we've got our image, and what we'll do is we shall actually wrap it with a button. But in the button, well, nah, we'll leave it like that. And in actual fact, if we undo that, right, we could actually wrap the whole thing. Right, tell you what, got another idea. Right, what we're going to do is we're going to have a checkbox. Okay. So let's see how that's looking. Yeah, that's looking fine. Just going to have a standard checkbox, and we shall stick a bit of padding on it. Right, so we'll give it, what, I don't know. In fact, what we could do is, I don't know if that's going to work or not, but we'll add 20. Okay. Yeah, that's fine. And then this whole horizontal box will wrap in a button. Okay. And that is going to be 0. Okay. And then the hovered is going to be 0.2. And then the pressed is going to be 0.2. Save that. Okay, so we'll save that and have a look. Right. So we press G. Yeah, that looks okay. The only thing is, we need this horizontal box to be left aligned. Okay, save that. And if we click the button, right, so we're going to say button select, and we're going to go in the graph. Whoops, oh, I'll swipe at a fly and hit the mic. Right, for each of these, we're going to say is selected, and it's going to be a bool. Right, and we're actually going to default it to true. Okay, so when we come in here, checkbox, okay, so we'll go to designer, select our checkbox, so we'll call this CHB, no, we'll call it CBX. CBX selected, and it's checked state. Okay, checked, and we're going to say set check state, okay, we're not going to do that. We're going to say is checked. No, we can't do that, because that's just a function. That's going to pull us back if it's checked or not, right? Right, so by def, now here's the interesting thing, we're going to have to set this up in a different way, but this is just going to give us a reference to if it actually works or not, right? But these aren't all going to be set by default, right? Because if the last time you came in, you've got certain ones checked and unchecked, then the next time you open it, you don't want those ones to be back to checked again, right? You only want the values checked that were already checked and left as checked. Okay? So we'll have to work on that, something on that. But in the meantime, we're going to do that. So that's going to set them to checked. Okay? And then what we have to do is on change, we've obviously got to do a branch on this. So if it's true, we're going to have to switch back on one of the data series, right? And if it's false, we're going to switch it off, okay? But we're also going to have to do the exact same thing with the button. Or something very, very similar. Now, we're going to need to find out what actually fires here. In fact, we actually don't need to do this, right? What we need to do is basically flip-flop on this. Right, so if we're starting on true, okay, then checked state is going to get set to unchecked, okay? And on the flip-flop, on the flop, it's going to get set back to checked. Okay. And then, well, actually, you know what we could do? We could basically come out here and say is checked. Right? And we can straighten that. And then we can branch. Now, we could do it like this. Right? And then kind of tidy these up a bit. Whoops. So we could do it like this. Right, so for the meantime, what we'll do is we'll hit a comment here and we'll say if it's checked, turn on series data, and this one will be turn off series data. Okay, so we know what our two things are going to be, our two sets of code. Okay, and what we're probably going to do here is we're going to be passing back the product. Okay, we're probably going to, this isn't going to be in the selector, right? We're going to need the parent for this, because we're going to be passing it back and telling the parent that here's the stuff that we want to do, because this is the one with the component and stuff, right? So yeah, there's that. So in here, we're going to have to change a bit of code. So we're going to need to pass the parent in. So we're going to need a reference to self, which we're going to use in a minute. And then in our stat selector, we're going to add a variable called parent. And it's going to be W underscore W stats. Okay. So when we go into here, refresh node, and then we do it properly by exposing it on spawn, then we can pass it in. Right, so we pass in our parent, then this is going to allow us to, so what we're going to do in here now, right, is in our event graph, you'll notice that we've got series enabled. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to do custom event, and we're going to say disable series data. Okay, now I've got absolutely no idea if this is going to work or not, but we'll try it anyway. Right, so we're going to have an input, right? It's going to be called product. Now this is going to be absolutely fantabulous if it actually works. Right, so we've got our product, and we're going to copy this, okay, then we're going to paste that in there, okay, then we're going to do that. Whoops a daisy. Okay, now we need our data source, So we basically need this. No we don't. No we don't. Controller production data source. Okay. So we basically go controller, except we don't make a comment. So we get the controller, then we say data where's our data source thing? Okay, so it's no that. It's for here, isn't it? Right, it's for here. Right, it's this one. Data source. So we get production data source. Then we plug it in here. Okay, gonna be like that, yeah. Okay. So what's this looking for in target? It's data source. That's GP production, right? Yeah, but we're not setting that. That's fine. Right, let's see what this actually is. Enable series. The series is in GR production. Right, okay. So it's actually this that I want, not the actual data source. Fine. Be like that. And this is going to be to string. Then it's going to go in here to remove any spaces, which is what we're doing with the rest of it. And we can save that. And let's see if this actually works. Add a breakpoint there. Continue that. And it crashed. Awesome. Well, I wonder how much work I've lost. This is the thrilling part. This is the thrilling part about crashing, isn't it? The excitement of finding out how much work you've lost. Is it 5 minutes or is it an hour and a half? Who knows? I don't think it's going to be a lot because it isn't doing its big I'm going to hang thing. Right, but right, what we got here? Well, we've still got a lot of code. We've still got most of our code actually. Right, so if check is false, we've still got our parent, right? And we can say disable series data, which is cool. And then our product is going to go in here. Okay. I'm going to save that, and just because I'm now scared, I'm going to hit a save all. And into here, we've still got our stuff, which is cool. And this is going to be enable false. In fact, you know what? We could put this into here. Right? We can save that. We can go to here. Then we can basically don't even need to do this branch, right? Theoretically, we could just go like that into there. Right? But just for a wee bit more control. Well, actually, you know what? Doesn't really matter, to be fair. The major point here is if we can actually do it or not, right? And if it actually works or not. So we're going to do a save all, right? You're going to let me do a save all. There we go. Right, save all. So the next part of our thing is yet another check on this. Right? Now we're gradually moving towards a nearly workable solution at this point for our right. We do need a little bit of okay. It's going to be a bit of a letdown if this fails, isn't it? After all that. Okay. So we've got our little check boxes and stuff. We're obviously going to have to do something with that because it's not looking too great. But we can worry about that in a minute. Right, so we've got widgets now as well. And this is the moment of truth when I click on this. Oh, look at that. Magnificent. Oh, awesome, man. Awesome. I'll take out the white one. Take out the green one. There you go. How's about that? Right? But this just basically brings up another problem, unfortunately, right? And that is that you'll notice the scale here is at 5, right? Now, if I do that, then it should basically drop the scale, right? The problem being that it doesn't look like a huge problem. The problem isn't obvious here because we've only got 5, right? Let's say this was 100, okay? Let's say this was 100. If this was 100, then obviously these are going to be low, right? These are going to be right at the bottom of the barrel, basically, right? And obviously, if we then switch off bauxite, we want this to drop, or the range to drop, so it would end up looking something similar to this, right? So even if we added it and this went up to 1,000, right, we'd obviously want to keep this value here. If it was 1,000, and then these would all basically be down at 0 type kind of thing, right? But that means that I'm going to have to do a bit of data manipulation here, where I have to save some other values and stuff. So right, let me explain this, right? But we're happy so far, we're making progress. And that's all you can do, right? All you can do is make progress. Right? So, right, let me show you this. Oh, actually, let's save this first. Right? And if we come to here, you'll notice that we've got highest quantity in selected. Now, I specifically named that in selected because I knew that we were going to end up selecting and deselecting certain series, right? So there's going to have to be one of these for every single array that we're showing, okay? So that we can then take the highest one from the selected, right? Remember, you might have one that's at 1,000, the rest are at like 1, 2s and 3s, okay? If you drop out the 1,000 and you've only got one value here, right, then we can't really do that, right? We've got to then pick out a highest quantity selected from each individual one of these, right? So we're going to have to go into running totals, and then for each one of these running totals, we're going to have to set a highest for that running total, okay? So you'll have a running total for, let's say, bauxite, okay? And the running total for bauxite might be 4,000. Well, yeah, let's say it's 4,000. Now, it's not a cumulative number, right? It gets cleared every time segment, okay? So we might be running 4,000 production in a minute, right? And it might be the highest, okay? So it might be the highest value. And then you've maybe got iron ore after that, right? That's running at 100. Okay? Now, if we're showing both of those values, we need a range above 1,000 so that we can show the bauxite, okay? But if we then deselect the bauxite, we still need to know what the highest value that is in the iron ore. So if it was 100, we need to know that 100's there, okay? So basically, for the running total, we need a highest value in each individual array element for the running total. Then we've got to do the structure to say, is it selected, right? And if it isn't selected, we don't try and get the highest total from that one, because it's actually not relevant at that point. Okay, now, I don't know if anybody would have understood a word I was talking about there. But what we can do is this struct product counter, okay? So this is going to have like a highest value similar to this, right? So let's work on that. So if we come back in here, this is all closed down because it crashed. But if we come to our blueprints and then our stats counter, right, we've got our stock, we've got this struct here, right? And what we've got to do with that is we've basically got to add two new variables, okay? And this is going to be highest count, and that's going to be an integer, and then this is going to be selected, which is going to be a bool, okay? And that one is going to start as that, and that's going to start as 1, okay? We need a value just in case we need a range, okay? We can't set the range to 0, so what we need to do is make sure that, now this isn't a counter, right? All it is we're defaulting it to 1 so that we've got a value for the range to work off, because in the graphs you can't have a 0, okay? I learned that the hard way. So if we save that, okay, and then when we come in here and we actually come in here, right, then we kind of do a similar thing to this, but not quite. Okay, so we don't do this, we add this on, and then we say we don't take that highest count, we take this highest count. Okay, so if this new quantity is higher than our highest count, then we set the new highest count, right? So we delete that. Okay, so bear with me guys till I work out what we're doing here. Well, I know what we're doing, but how I need to kind of do this. It's basically, if it's 1, we set the highest count to that, right, straight across. And if it's this one, or sorry, if this is higher than this, then we set this one, okay? So basically this is going to go to here. Right, okay, so what we do is we've got to do another one of these, right? Well, we don't. We could actually do it as a set members, but right. So basically we do this. Right, well, that doesn't seem to want to do that properly, so we'll have to do this. Right, so we'll pull this down here. Right, so that array goes in there, that's fine. Right, we're going to delete that for now. So if this is not greater than that, okay, we are going to do this. So this will go in here. Okay. If it is greater than that, then we're kind of going to do the same thing most of the way. Right. Let's do this a different way to keep it cleaner, okay? What we're going to do is we're going to set members instruct. Okay. Now, the only two values that we're going to change, that can change here, is the highest count or the quantity, right? Well, the quantity is always going to change. It's always going to go +1, right? So, in effect, we're going to delete this, right? And then we'll put this in here. And this in here. Right, so the only thing we change is that. Okay? Then if it's in here, if it's true, we change these two, right? And that's to this. And that basically becomes the same thing. Right, because that new quantity is the quantity. Okay. So this goes into here. Then this basically goes up to here as well. We can tidy this up in a minute. Then the struct out goes into item, into there. And into there. And this goes into here. Okay. And we'll tidy that up in a minute or two. But fundamentally, this return highest quantity is going to have to do something slightly different now. Well, actually, no, it's not. Well, no, hang on a second. Yeah, it is. This is going to have to be reset. Oh, no, it's not. We're going to have to do this. If the quantity okay, let me think about this for a second. And I think on that we shall call it an evening or an afternoon. If you've enjoyed the stream, hit the subscribe button. And check out the description for Discord, Patreon, and my previous Steam game. And I hope you enjoyed the stream. And I'll be back at 8 PM Central Time. and I shall see you all later. Bye bye.